Hello and welcome back to my craft room. I'm very excited. I've finally got a couple of hours free to come back and have a little play with my May Bead Box from Deborah Beads. So I've already made up the kit box from May. You'll be able to find that in a separate video on the playlist. The kit box is the one where you get instructions to make one specific set of perhaps earrings and bracelet or necklace and earrings. With this one you get more stuff but no instructions, so you've got to get a bit creative and design your own pretty things. I think I've got plenty here to make at least a couple of necklaces, a bracelet and a pair of earrings. I love these colours. I think this is going to be completely for me. I think there's probably not a lot of chance that this is going to get given away to anybody else. I'm going to use this bead tray, and I was too mean to buy one for years, and actually I don't know why I didn't, because they don't cost an awful lot. You can easily make do without them. You could just put a piece of felt or something down, because that helps to stop the beads rolling away. But being able to lay things out here, having all the little compartments and things, I just find it really handy. So the first thing I'm going to do is pop all my bits and bobs in the tray. So that's all of my goodies all laid out. So now, now I've got to put my thinking cap on and think, what do I want to do with this? At the moment, my vague idea, because I love the kinds of necklaces where they're quite long, you can even double them over. There's like a charm or a couple of charms at the end, and lots of little tiny charms all the way down. I could make lots of little charms and link them and space them along the chain. Or I could even break up the chain and link it together with little charms, because I have got my own sort of extra stash of jump rings here. I've even got some kind of copper colour ones, quite a heavyweight, so I could throw those into the mix, which I will leave those out because I've got a feeling I might want to do that. I'm going to turn off the camera now while I have a little bit of a think, and then I'm going to use this bead board to start laying out my necklace, because I definitely want to do a necklace first. Okay, so I've had a little think, quite a big think, and I've laid everything out so that I know I'm not going to run out of something halfway through. So all I've added at the moment is some of my large size copper jump rings I had already, and I've got some of this jewellery wire here as well, which I think I might need. And this is my plan. Of course things do have a way of changing as you go along, don't they? But this is what I'm thinking. So my main necklace is going to be using this chain, and where you can see these, where I've put these beads and the rings, my plan is that I'm going to cut the chain there and link it back together. Where you can see these, where I've spaced these, is where I will make tiny charms using these head pins, which will dangle from the jump rings. So I think I need to just put these beads that are set aside for charms over here. So that's the necklace. Then I'm going to do a necklace, this one at the top here. I've measured that out roughly using the guide on this board. These are good. It is good because these beads have been going all over the place. It's kind of flopped. So I've measured that on my wrist. It's marked from 0 upwards in both directions. So 0 is here. So I wanted about 18 centimetres to go comfortably around my wrist, so I've gone 0 to 9 on both sides, and I've allowed a little bit for my clasp. So that one I'm going to make using the wire, and I shall need some crimps, and I learnt how to do that, use the wire and crimps on, I think it was the last kit box or maybe the one before. So I know I've got some spare crimps in my stash as well. In this middle row here, I wouldn't normally set them all up at once like this, I just wanted to make sure I had enough for everything, and now I've laid them out I don't want to move them again, so I'm going to try and keep it like this and work with it this way. So this middle one, I'm going to use the grey waxed cord, and I'm going to have the jump ring in the middle as a focal point, and then divide my cord into two and have it knotted around the jump ring. That'll be clearer when I actually do it. And then there'll be some beads knotted into it as I go along, and then a couple of charms as a focal point, so I've got beads set aside for those as well. And there's lots of these seed beads here which will end up being fillers and kind of end beads on my charms. So that's my plan. What I'm going to do now is film this. It will take me a good couple of hours to do all this, maybe more, and then I will speed through, and I won't show you the whole process because it'll probably get quite boring to watch, but I'll do you an edited, speeded through version. Thanks very much for sticking with me. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. So what I've been doing so far is, for each one of my little beady points here, I've threaded the little group of beads onto a piece of wire and then created a loop at each end, which will link onto the pieces of copper chain. So if I just try and show you how I've done it, again with the disclaimer that I'm not pretending to be an expert. I'm kind of fumbling my way through this, but so I've just taken a little length of my wire. I'm just less than a centimetre away from one end. I'm just bending it back, and then I'm taking my round nose pliers and just curling the wire around. I've adjusted the position of the pliers a couple of times there, so I end up with that, and then I'll just straighten that out, and then I thread my bead onto it like this, cut about the same length again at this end, and then I always find this second one fiddlier. Also, never remember to make sure that the loops are facing the same way every time, but for this one it really doesn't matter anyway. Now I've got a little loop at each end. So that's the last one of those little bead clusters for that chain necklace. So to make the charms, which will go into these rings, I'm going to use one of these copper head pins. Right, start with one of the seed beads, then my gorgeous splashy bead, and last of all this little pretty faceted. That's quite a nice combination. So for the charms I want to do a bit of wire wrapping, and I had to go onto the Deborah Beads Facebook page because Deborah's put some really handy tutorials on there, and wire wrapping is something that comes up quite a bit, I think. So if you want to see a better tutorial, go there and check it out, but this is my take on it. So I'm just getting hold of the wire, just like 2 millimeters at most away from the top of that bead, and I'm bending the wire away so it's not quite right angles. Then I'm going to pull the wire just with my hand, keep hold of it quite firmly, pull the wire back, oops, Didn't do that very well. It's quite hard doing it at arm's length in front of the camera as well, actually. Though Debbie made it look easy, of course. Putting that back towards me so it's like this. Now I'm just going to adjust the position of the pliers so they're back around parallel with my work desk again. And I'm going to get hold of that wire and take it back behind. So it's like this. Now the idea is to wrap wire around that little kind of 2mm that we left. So I'm going to grab hold of this loop that I've made. So it's a nice little loop. I'm quite pleased with my little loop. I'm going to grab hold of that with my one pair of pliers. Then I'm going to get my other round nose pliers and I'm going to wrap from the loop towards that top bead. Grab hold of it and just wrap it around. I expect my effort will not be as beautiful and tidy as Debbie's, but I think it will still look pretty. And practice makes perfect. Oh, I think I just broke the seed bead off the bottom. That's okay, I'll keep wrapping then to fill, because I've got a bigger gap now. I'll keep wrapping to fill the gap. You do have to be careful when you've got these glass beads because they will break if you squeeze them too hard. Now I've got all of that space wrapped, I'm going to use my wire cutters to just snick that off as close as I can get. Hey, I'm quite pleased with that. My first little charm. So I'm going to go through now and do that with all the other charms while I'm on a roll, and then I'll have everything I need to put my necklace together. Well, it's a bit frustrating that I've got every colour of jump rings in my stash except for copper. So I'm going to plump for these kind of antique brassy colour ones, which they don't match, but I don't think they're too bad. And I don't think that's going to be, hopefully, won't be too obvious. Anyway, we'll see. It's only for myself, so I'm not too bothered. If they look too obvious, I'll add a couple more beads to them. Find a bead that will actually thread onto there. That will kind of hide it a bit. Yeah. That's a really good idea. Okay. So the next thing is to cut my chain. Now, I can't open up the links in the chain like you can with jump rings, because obviously they're each link is welded closed. So I'm just going to have to cut it. I found the roughly centre point by folding it in half, and I'm just going to carefully cut one of the links. I could probably move these out of the way now. Oh, I can hear my friend arriving. I'm going to have to come back to this later. Okay, so I'm back in my craft room. My friend arrived unexpectedly early yesterday, so I had to stop really suddenly. I mean, we spent the rest of the day. It was a lovely day. I had the whole day out and had a great time. But I've completely forgotten where I was. I think I just cut this chain in half. I'm going to link it back together with this large copper jump ring. My plan was to use a smaller jump ring either side, like this, to link them back together, and then I would hang one of the little wire wrapped charms that I've made off of each ring. But I haven't got any smaller jump rings in copper, so these are a slightly different colour. This is just for me, and it's just for practice, and it's just for a bit of fun, and as long as it looks pretty in the end, I'm going to be happy with it. If I had a whole load of this size, that would be fine, but I haven't, and I'm not patient enough to wait for them to arrive if I order some. So of course I could just come up with a different design, couldn't I, that doesn't need. There are plenty of things I could do without needing. Cool, these are quite hard to open, without needing all these extra jump rings, but I've got this idea in my head. So let's see if... Oh! Ping. No, that definitely doesn't want to go through. So I'm just going to open up this little copper jump ring. And I want to see if the only thing I've got here that would go on there is probably these. But then I'd be introducing white into the mix. Having said that, it does look quite... Oops. Having said that, it does look quite cute on there, doesn't it? So if I put some white ones in here, wherever the chains are going to be, what would that... Actually, maybe some white is quite nice, actually. Okay. So I've got my links of chain, my smaller jump ring with a bead on it, and then I've got my larger jump ring. And now I want another smaller jump ring with another white bead on it, linking on the other side. And now I close up my jump ring, and we'll start to see if this is going to work or not. I've divided my chain in half. I've linked it back together again with a big jump ring and two smaller ones. Something might end up looking really awful in the end. Right, so I've had that change of... Let me whiz you out again. I've had that little change of plan. Instead of having the other two copper rings, large copper rings up here, I'm just going to use the smaller ones to join these little bead clusters that I've made. Oh, that isn't doing at all what I wanted it to do. Right, I've gone away and had a think and decided to keep it much simpler than I was going to. I've cut my remaining length of chain on the other side so that both sides are pretty much equal. I'm just going to have my little cluster of charms, little wire wrapped charms here, with the one smaller jump ring with the white bead threaded onto it, and that's linked to the other chain, one end of the chain on, and then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side for the other length of chain. Yeah, that's better. So now I've got my chain split in the middle, linked back together with a copper jump ring that actually matches. And then that little cluster of charms there, the two smaller jump rings linking the whole thing together with the white things on. And now I just need to put my smaller copper jump rings, so I've got these ones which came in the kit, and I need to put one of those on either end. there's my little, there's my fastening and my little dinky charms on the other end. Oh, I really like that. I think it's really cute, really pretty. And I'd probably end up wearing that with a couple of others, all sort of layered together. So that's that done. Now I need to start on my neck on my bracelets. I've also, of course, now got these extra little clusters of beads, which were going to be for that necklace. I might end up doing 3 bracelets and have a whole string of them. So I've got all of this, and I've got a bead wire more than enough. And I've got loads of, obviously, bead wire and stuff of my own anyway. I end up doing that one with all silver things rather than copper, because I've got a lot more silver coloured findings of my own. So, right, so I've taken stock again, sort myself out. So, these beads I'm going to make into a bracelet using silver jump rings, because I've got plenty of them. This one I'm going to make using the grey cord that came in the kit. I'm going to do that one first, and then this other one I'm going to use the beading wire that came in the kit. I've got my last little wire wrapped charm, the one that turned out a bit rustic, but that's fine. I'm going for the boho look. I'm going to link that and another one of these little rings with the white bead on, just to keep that going. I'm going to link both of them onto that central ring, and then just to keep things in 3s, because that's what I like to do. Oh, that's where that went. I knew I lost one of those. I'm going to make myself another little charm, and this time I've had a dig around. I found a copper coloured little leaf charm, which I'm going to add to it to go on one of my bracelets. And then I think, even though they won't all be copper coloured, I think I will quite happily wear all of these in a stack and they'll all go together. So let's make this little charm first. So that's my little cute charm. Maybe I should have put that on the necklace. No, I think it'd be nice on the bracelet as well. So that's all going to go on that central ring. No, it's too big, it's not going to work. It's going to go on the necklace. Right. Change of heart again. So, that charm has now ended up on my bracelet, on my necklace. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And this is going to be the little focal point of my cord bracelet. So to start the bracelet, I'm going to cut this cord in half-ish. And I'm going to fold each half in half. Right, so I've got it folded in half, threaded onto my ring, and then I put it back through the loop and pull it up so that you get a knot like that. The same on the other side. That's going to be the centre of my bracelet. And now I'm going to start threading my beads on. Now I'm going to play around with this and do one half, and once I've decided how that half is going to look, I'll come back and show you the other half on it, and then it might look like I know what I'm doing. Right, so this is turning out to be one of the longest videos I've ever made. Decided I didn't like my original idea for the bracelet, so keeping an open mind, took it apart, started again, go back to keeping it simple, and I've just laid out the main beads I was going to use. And based on the ones I can easily get this cord through, so I had to reject these small grey ones, and the little crystally ones wouldn't work. The tiny seed beads obviously not. So I'm just going to see, I'm going to have a go at just threading these onto the cord, making a knot, and then leaving a space and threading another one. So let's just make a little, the trouble is now I've cut that in half, it might not be long enough. So I might have to cheat, and I'll just, if that's the case, I'll just use another piece of cord. But what I'm going to do for now is just try this out just to see how the design looks. And if need be, I will do it again with another piece of cord off camera, and I'll come back and show you how amazing it looks at the end. I'll tell you what though, I might have had to change my mind 2 or 3 times, take things apart, start again, but I'm having a lovely afternoon. So, and I feel very chilled about it. So here we are. So I've just made a knot, and I've slid a bead onto it, and now I'm going to tie another knot and get it as close as I can to that bead. It's just a normal, you know, just a normal little knot, and then before I pull it tight, I'm just sliding the knot up close to the bead, like that. So it stops the bead moving up and down, so it means you can space them out and make a longer bracelet for less beads. And also the knots are nice little features in themselves. So I'm not going to be too finicky about it, but I'm going to make about a 2 centimetre gap. So that's 2 centimetres. So if I keep just mark that with my thumbnail, keeping it there, keeping it on that 2 centimetre mark, tying the knot, and then sliding the knot up to where I've marked with my thumbnail before I put it tight. You have to finagle it a little bit, but it's not difficult, just a little bit of patience. There we are. Now I pinched this idea from the June kit, which I've just received but haven't actually had time to do yet, where we use this knotting between the beads kind of technique. So this is good practice, isn't it? I'm going to be, by the time I come to do that, I'll be an old hand. I just need one more bead. Look, I'm just that short. One more bead will do it. Okay, I'm going to have to start again and use a different cord from my stash because I've messed this up. But at least I know what I'm doing now. Oh, I'm going to have to use this black. It's not such nice quality, but hopefully it'll work. Let's give myself plenty. Let's start with the pink. Well, I'm going to turn you off and just work through this now. Right, I've done that. Made a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. And because I wanted to bring in the white beads and perhaps use some of those little pink beads I had from my stash, I've also done a string of those, and I'm going to join them together like this. The next thing is to use these little end clamps, cord clamps I think they're called. Cord ends, maybe they're cord ends. I will put both the ends of my that's quite hard to show actually. So there's my cord end. I will put both the ends in there and then fold that crimp over and squeeze it shut. But first of all, I'm going to put a little dab of glue in there. So it gives you a nice, neat, sort of professional looking finish. And then I can put a jump ring through the end there to attach my lobster clasp on the other end. Well, I just realised I was chattering away to myself and the camera had switched off because it wasn't actually plugged in at the mains as I thought it was. So I'm not quite sure where that cut me off till I come to play this back later on. But I've finished adding the cord ends to my 2 strands of knotted beads there. And I was just at the point where I realised the camera wasn't actually on. I was just saying how, you know, I've had to use, because I messed up early on and had to start again, I had to use my own cord, which isn't such nice quality, and it's black, not grey. And I think this grey, nicer quality waxed cord that actually came in the kit would have probably been nicer, but I still like this. I think it's really pretty, and I will probably wear it stacked up with other bracelets, which is what I usually do. I've now got to decide if I want to add this charm onto it. I think I will. Well, I've got 2 finished items now. Both quite pretty. Okay, so now with this one, I think I'm going to do a wired bracelet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is my centre. No, let's do the crimp first. Right, so I'm going to put my wire through a jump ring and then through one of these tiny crimps, if I can see it. Okay, before I start this new project, I'm going to force myself to go and get my visor. Right, so it goes through the crimp, through the jump ring, and then you turn it back on itself and go back through the crimp again. So I've gone through the crimp, through the jump ring, and then back through the crimp again. And now I'm going to get my flat nose pliers, oops, and give that crimp a really good squeeze. Put my visor down again. And that just squashes it flat so it holds the wire, stops it going anywhere. And then I can just trim that end off really, really close, so it shouldn't go anywhere now. And then I can start threading my beads. I'm hoping I can do this without the visor. Yep, so that's my finished length. So that was actually really quick. We should have done this one first. Would have been much more encouraging. Yeah, really pretty as well, isn't it? Let's just do this up. There we go. That's my second bracelet. Right, so I've come back after dinner. I'm gonna try linking all of these little bead clusters that I've made together with silver coloured jump rings, but I don't think you need to watch that because it's just me opening and closing jump rings, so I'll come back at the end when I'm done and show you how it turned out. And Now I've come back and looked again at my necklace, I just think it's always going to annoy me that these colour jump rings don't match the copper. So I'm going to slightly rework this and take those brass bits out and somehow add back in this charm that I didn't end up using on the bracelet. Now the way that I'm hoping I can do that is by doing a bit more cannibalising of these earring wires, which I'm not going to use. I reckon I can make myself some more little jump rings out of these, rework it a little bit, and even where I've cut the ear wire apart, incidentally, what I wanted was the little loop. I just wanted that little loop to use as a jump ring. But I've ended up with, where's it gone now? Just a little piece of wire, which I can make into a head pin or, an eye pin or jump rings. There's also these little pieces that came off it. I think it's a shame not to use them. So, I'm going to do a little bit of reworking. I've also got that one copper colour bead that I found in my stash. And I've got these tiny pieces of chain as well. But I think it's got to the point where this video is going to be way too long, and you know, there's a limit to how much you want to sit and watch. So I will come back in a minute, in just a few seconds for you, probably a couple of hours for me, and show you how it ended up. Well, at last I've finished. I've got 3 bracelets there, which I'm really happy with. So this was the last one, you just saw me starting. So this is, put these down a minute. This is those little bead clusters that I made by making the little wire loops, and then they just link together with silver jump rings with a little lobster clasp there. So that's quite pretty and delicate, I really like that. This one was the wire one I made earlier. Yeah, that was an absolute doddle to make, and actually has only used things that were in the kit. What have I used that's not? This one, the silver wire and silver, you know, the silver findings, and the couple of white beads were from my stash. And then this one, so I had to, because I had a bit of a change of plan, messed up and had to change of plan, I had to use some cord from my stash. So otherwise the grey cord that came with the kit would have been, you know, would have actually looked a lot nicer. It's a prettier colour and it's a better quality. But this is lovely though. I like this. It's just my kind of thing. And although these are 3 different styles, they all kind of go together. And I would quite happily wear them all at the same time in a stack like that. I really like that look. That's very me. And then the necklace, I did manage to sort it out, so I'm a bit happier with it. So I took off all the findings that were the wrong colours, and as I said, I ended up cannibalising those copper ear wires that I wasn't going to use, and used bits and pieces from them. And I even used the tiny leftover bits of chain, so I've just dangled them from that large jump ring there, just to give it a bit more interest. I'd probably quite happily wear all of those at once. I love the colours, very pretty. I love that combination of the pink and the grey and the copper together. But they worked equally well, I think, with the silver findings. Very pretty combination. And all I've got left from the kit is some of the tiny seed beads in that goldy colour. This acrylic pendant, which I just thought the colour didn't quite work for me, but I will keep it in my stash. It will come in for something else. There's one ear wire and a couple of little ear wire bits that were left over, 1 of the pink beads and 3 of the grey beads, and that white one was actually from my stash anyway. So that's it. What a brilliant kit. I mean, I had a couple of struggles and had to start again, but I've had several hours of fun out of this, and at the end of the day I've got several pieces of jewellery that I will enjoy wearing. So what fantastic value, and I can't believe I got all that for a £5. So next thing will be to try out the June boxes. Now I'm all caught up on May, so I'll see you again soon for that. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.